Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
It says we are live. So if that's the fact, welcome everybody to another week. We because of unforeseen circumstances, we missed the last week's episode. Josh had to help somebody in need, and of course, that trumps everything.
Yes.
So again, thank you very much, Josh, for your time and your presence.
You are so welcome. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for yours, brother.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We decided today to talk a little bit about something I could know more about myself. Water and ether. They are both elements of the basic elements, depending on like the show notes says, depending on who you ask. The Hindus call ether for Akash.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting when you know the Akashic records, where everything is stored.
Yes.
In the ether around us. So water and ether, on that note as well, has they both store memory or have memory, which is something we will get into more. So, or you will, I will.
We both flow into discussion because it's important to know where one is relative with their perception to see, because as you expressed, the Akashic and the ether, they both store, having the understanding of the ether. Everything is manifest from the ether. So the ether is the space, you could say, where everything in existence in the concept world is. Are you okay?
Do we have a issue? Hold on.
I don't think we do.
I have double audio. Do you hear?
I don't. I can hear absolutely perfect. Maybe you have.
No, it's just I can hear the delay of our. Hold on.
Pause if you have the YouTube up. Maybe that would be
Probably that's something
wise. And if everyone is on the juice fast, or two that are on the juice fast, or if you're just juicing, it's great to have you. And we're embarking, if you do not know, on a 21-day juice fast within our community to liberate our digestive systems from matter and to have a great cleanse and rest.
The issue was on my side, so no worries.
There we go. There we go.
Yes.
So yes, everything is stored there. Everything that is manifest is concept, exists within this plane. And you could almost say the halls of Amenti, the Akashic records, and this accretion disk, what we call ether, is unified in its description. But it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to truly understand, which opens up dimensions to this physical plane. So where should we start?
I just already popped up a question from me. So it's said that, or it's not just said, it's probably definitely true, that when in meditation, probably when you are at a certain state or have reached a certain place, you can connect to the Akashic records and take out this information.
There's many stages to one's ability to transfer dimensions within themselves. So let's just give 3 relative perceptions within oneself. You have this person that holds the body mind. You have the ability to become very present in the moment as the observer, or the presence itself, involved fully in the moment. There we go. So we're recording, yes?
I forgot to record.
That's okay. No problem, dear brother. So one, we'll start previously. So if we start with the ability that one has to be able to transfer their awareness into different dimensions at any given point, if one has the practice, we have this person with the mind, and we have this experiencer who is involved in the presence or the moment, and the watcher or the witness. And you can transfer your consciousness into each body or each level of awareness at any given time. So the Akashic records, or this ether, truly is actually a concept that's arisen inside yourself. So the ether is a concept that allows one to get lost into the play of matter within themselves. So it's a perfect geometry for one who has the inquisitive nature to even fall trap into their very existence about trying to uncover the existence of themselves. When one witnesses this from a higher space as the true creator of all of this. So it's a perfect aligned geometry that allows one to go within inside and project out onto the material plane to be able to fragment themselves and lose themselves within this cosmic play. Even ether, water are both concepts that have been created from the creator, which is the witness of its creation at any given moment. This is the observer and the all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye is that which you truly are. And when one sits in a meditative state, or one has the ability to become meditative, and then they see that they are aware of everything and become aware of their awareness, yet this awareness is seen and witnessed by something which you could never find or never see. This is the creator of all of this. This is the manifester and the unmanifest. So you see, you transfer consciousness from this witness into the experiencer and then into this person. And we can fall trap into this person and mind reality, which would be of the world, and get lost, not knowing who we truly are. So when we talk about shifting dimensions, we're actually talking about shifting levels of awareness within inside ourselves as we increase consciousness or awareness to find ourself once again. So that's something, if one has a real vivid perception of what is, even this ether field is a creation of ourselves. Because in the search for God, we elude ourselves from our true nature as creators, as witnesses of the creation that we manifest from ourselves. And I think if one has the ability to grasp that very concept, one can truly free themselves from the position of the observer that has the attention drawn to this moment consistently and sit in the space as the witness of all things, free from samsara. But we can move into the realm of concepts, which may be more beneficial for people as like building the intellect or building the intelligence. So one has the ability to navigate their self correctly through the realm to then be able to free themselves to these different dimensions that exist within inside ourselves. I'll get the pen out so we can use language as well to help stimulate ourselves through the journey.
Yes.
Do you have the ability to share your screen or to be able to share a Taurus? Would you be able?
You want to show a Taurus?
If you can, that would be wonderful. Just initially, in case we have people that are new to Taurus?
It's here on my finger.
Okay, well, if everybody can see the Taurus there, everything is related to energy. The ether plane is the accretion disk, or what you would see as green on the Taurus. There's a red shift and blue shift, which are positive and negative, positively charged ions, negatively charged. And you'll see that in correlation to language, the red shift is A and the blue shift is E. Okay, the absolute of the Taurus is R, which is reciprocating and number 18 in numerology. So if I give the number 18, for example, you will see, let's move this here. So you will see that 18 itself is the hidden symbology for this reciprocating hyperboloid, which is the Taurus. And this is correlated to the word R, or sorry, the letter R. Now, we will write the word ether down. So we see A and E, which is together here. This is the red and the blue shift. T represents physical. This is 20 in the alphabet. This is number 8. This is number 5. And this is number 18. You can see there is no mistake within creation at all. Everything is synchronized, even the phonics, right down to the very last expressive form that we talk. A, E, the R, okay, is one expression of the word ether. So the A and E is the R, which means the red and blue is the reciprocator. You also have A and E, the physical vibration of the ether, or physical full magnetism. So the ether itself is the positive and negative in a physical vibration of the phi cycle reciprocating, which should be down to the relative torus that we see there. So the ether itself allows manifestation within a physical or the phi cycle for us to get lost in play. As one may research and start looking at theories, etc., they may find that we have a holographic universal theory. This is the holographic plane. And this allows the photons or light that's being created to be manipulated by the mind itself, creating images. So the balancing of this torus, you have the A and E. A, positive, E, negative. As these two energies become intertwined, this perfect balanced state is di. One may know it as the dielectric field. In this di, or this pure state, light is expressed. And this light is where life exists. And the ether itself is the field which allows all of this life to manifest.
So the ether is the reason, or why we have something like the law of attraction? Like what you give energy is what you attract? This is
everything is related down to energy itself. So the law of attraction, in the sense of the level that we vibrate at, we create the experience around us. So all of the content is stored within this field, and the alignment consistently happens through the energetic signature of our being or our doing, or the very vibration that we carry. So every experience that is manifest, albeit depending on one's level of awareness, is due to the nature of their physical self and the mind that they may have trapped within the world, relative to its perceptions, its beliefs, its concepts. And then the experience is all aligned within the field geometry. And then one has a necessary experience to overcome the very thing that they are blocking their self with within this reality. this reality is to clear karmic debt, is to clear, is to continually expand awareness. And by expanding awareness, one must become aware of the very things that are stopping them becoming themselves. So once the self has become in duality, and one is believing they are individual in divided duality, in divine duality, that very concept separates them from the true self, which is the witness, which at any given moment one has send their awareness back to the self with fear, hatred, resentment, and all of these things. These things hold us back. These things create your fragmentation in duality. So the ether is life itself in form, in the conceptual world of all things manifest. And without it, there would be no play. There would be no physical. There would be no shape. There would just be nothing. So we must give thanks to this very concept, for the concept of ether that we can see and perceive and get lost and play in. And this is where you would see water has a grand correlation to the ether, because without water, there would be no life. And if one understands, let's say, the sacred geometry of the golden ratio, water itself is an exact replication of the geometry of this golden ratio. The hydrogen and oxygen molecule, or the molecules that create water, are the very same as this golden ratio or the golden mean triangle. So within the word water, you will see WATER. So there's the A and there's the E. You can see T is the physical. Also phonetically, you hear the word eight. W is W, it's the duality. So the duality of the A and the physical E, reciprocator. Water is the medium for all life to exist. And without water, there would be no expressive form. Water exists everywhere, everywhere in this experience. You cannot go away from it. It exists now in the very air you breathe. It exists within your body, within the land, within everything. Without water, it would be just dust. Water is within different densities within this plane. And this is what allows the experience to manifest within the physical form, within the play. Ether and water are so related, but water is the form, the fluid, the solid, the liquid, the gas, and the ether is the untouchable. It's a field which that content arises within. Yet, remaining true to yourself, you are the creator of all this. And all of these concepts arise from within yourself. And you are the witness to all of these. And you have the ability to transfer your consciousness from this person, mind, involved in the world, to the witness of this, free from any type of emotional content, any desires, to then work themselves back to this self, which is, again, the witness of everything. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask about water, ether, or field, or even anything else?
I haven't popped up any questions just yet. That I can see.
Everything within the field itself you could say, is a wave. We have vibrations which we could say are sound frequencies, depending on the level of speed that this vibration has. And if we're trying to figure out sacred science, for example, of how things work, like the sun, it starts with the letter S, which is the sine wave. If we look at the word, let's say spring, in the word spring, you can see the sine wave, P is light, and ring. And springs are shaped in this geometry. So all light travels, all sine waves, all light, and everything is from light, travels in spirals. This is why spiral begins with the word S, because it's the sine wave. So as we see our sun travel, if we look from the picture behind with the Taurus, there's a hyperboloid, which is like a tornado shape. Now, this is the spring, or the sine wave of light in a ring format. The word ring, R, a reciprocator in G. G is the 7, this balanced 7 even sine wave. And this is what the sun's doing, traveling in the spring. And the word spring, even in one of the seasons, as it begins to rise, and we get more heat, for example. And then as Jesus, the Son, for example, allegorically dies, the sun is coming back to its lowest point as it shifts from the tropic of the equator. And then we start to experience less light, cooler weather, but it's traveling on this spring. And then the moon itself is plasma. It contains a negative. Go on, brother, please.
Yeah, just when you mentioned moon, because I was thinking about this just today, off topic a little bit, but on the topic of the moon. How come? What is actually making the moon? You know, I have noticed early in the evening or when it gets dark, the moon can be quite big, and even later in night, it has it's much smaller on the same day.
Well, what's happening is as water is the medium of everything, so there's water that's existing here within the plane. So as the moon is more distant away from us, there's actually, what would the greatest word be for this? Atmospheric magnification. So the water particles themselves are actually magnifying this on a level. And as it becomes closer, it becomes more relative to the truth. As you see, when the sun is on the horizon, it becomes to be very large and very wavy. But this is due to the medium of water actually having a magnification of it through its very particles. And then as it becomes closer to you, you see it in its true state. This is why our eyes necessarily cannot be trusted. It's all perception, and they're limited. As we see the sun travel on its rays, it looks like, it's going down, but it's not. It maintains its height, it maintains its path. But yet your perception sees it as going down, as if you were stood in a road and it was completely straight, and the road starts to point and the street lights start to also dip. It's perception relative, but that's down to the atmospheric magnification. It's a good question. It allows one to see clearer.
Yeah, because I haven't been much aware, or I have been aware, but more aware now than before, maybe. So that was something, it was very noticeable here just a week or two ago, where it was really, really big in the early evening, or as soon as it got dark. And then later in night, much, much smaller. so noticeable.
Mm.
So it raised some questions. I also thinking about today we have this really thin moon, you know, and it was visible in daytime as well.
Yeah.
So you see the moon, but you just see the small outline.
Crescent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crescent. What is actually shadowing the moon when you know it gets full, it gets small, or what's happening there?
It's non-material. The moon itself is the opposite of this. Let's say the sun. The sun is positively charged. This moon is negatively charged. It's all to do with this electromagnetic universe. But the moon is a part of the magneto trail of the sun, or the magneto tail. So it's always in correlation to where the sun moves and to how it moves. So you have a plasma that is non-physical. It's you would say it's an illusion. This is where every researcher or everyone searching for the truth within the web, you'll find that is the moon a satellite? You know, if one search for this, have you come across this? People saying the moon's a satellite. You know, you can't land on the moon itself. The moon, the sun and the moon are perfectly balanced, and they work to create this this charge, very high voltage system. It's an incredible union.
I've heard lots of let's say stories about the moon. One is that it was towed in place long time ago, and some civilizations also talked about the time before the moon, also the time with the two suns. But that's yeah. So not
you know, there's a grand writing within NASA that say that the sun is the center of our universe, but the projected sun is not the sun. This is the light of this realm. At the center, they say it's molten metal. Now, if anyone knows about free energy and these types of things, you'll know that Mercury itself can create perpetual motion in a magnetic field. We have a planet called Mercury, but it's not within the solar system that we see projected on the plane, because you have Mars and Venus, Saturn and Jupiter. So I should draw this really. But you have our sun and our moon, you have Mars and its moon, and you have Mercury and its moon. So, sorry, not Mercury, Saturn and its moon. So Mercury, if you listen to the truth and the untruth within the matrix itself, it's expressing that Mercury is at the center, liquid metal. So there's something to do with Mercury, and there's a black sun and a white sun. And it's all to do with this polarity system. And one has to really go on this journey themselves to really truly understand the way that this system works. And if one can bring the synchronicities to this expression, then everything is aligned in perfect geometry, even the language, even the way that NASA speaks. The truth is hidden in plain sight. And then you have these grand synchronicities within inside yourself, and a perception that begins to grow so rapidly that everything makes sense. And everything is seen, it all makes sense, and you begin to free yourself from even the concept world. But the concept world itself is in perfect form to free yourself. That's why when one starts to awaken to it, it becomes so very obvious, and everybody just seems asleep. But then there's more layers to that, and one starts to begin to feel very alone. And even the word alone says you're all one.
We always, or you always, break down these words. So probably maybe we should do an episode on that, explaining more in depth so people can follow easier.
Yeah,
probably, maybe, because it's so interesting, and it's so.
I could go off for probably 3 months without stopping and sharing this language, so it creates a format that everybody can get to grips with, because it does free everything and everyone from this experience. Every word itself expresses the meaning and the solution within inside itself, just as the word solution. Soul, UT, ion. Soul, U, physical ions. The soul, the spirit, SOL, the sine wave void of L. L is the root Sanskrit word for God. So what is the soul, and why is the word lost spelt lost? It's the reversal of the soul, and there's a T on the end. So you're lost within the physical plane of the soul. So the word lost itself gives you the solution, and also the expression that you are the soul itself in physical form and you've become lost.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works.
But I very rarely talk like this because I know that it's very hard to understand. So I'm trying to create the basics so people can apply, and that's why the logo is truth in application, or with application, because once one applies the truth, they become wise to it, and there's no arguing with yourself. And then one practices on the virtues, because sometimes we can fall trapped to trying to show people where we are at, or try to give our perception over to others, yet it's all within inside ourselves. So we bring balance to every moment, and have an understanding that everyone is on a journey. Everyone has their world and their perceptions, and everyone must find the end in their own time.
So with that, probably we already know or have a good understanding of maybe what we should do for the next 3 episodes. We could maybe do language, virtues,
Yeah.
and then Christmas.
Have we done? Yes, we haven't done. Have we done? Did we do food, or was it just fasting?
No, we did the lost art of eating first. Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
So
food is the ultimate opening. It's the first level to activating oneself to be able to use their body as it was intended, to heighten senses and become supernatural. That's so important, you know. But once you have transcended time, body and mind, the system switches to the magnetic system, which is the magic or the magician. And then the magician can no longer be harmed by the physical nature, because it's just a concept that's arisen within inside itself. So then you can go and enjoy the world for what it is, as an experience, being unaffected by all things. You can go and eat the very things which you wish to eat, because it has no effect.
No matter what it is.
Have you heard of the mystics drinking mercury and having an absolute transformative effect within the system? But if you haven't transcended time, you kill you. This journey can be as far as one's willing to take it, yet we're so caught up in busyness, in the busyness world, and concepts and hobbies and phones. I mean, one world has been trapped by scrolling. Before it was the TV, you know, you could say our mum and dad's age. Before that, the awareness was very low, and it was meat, dairy, it was bread, it was eggs, sugar. These things here kept one very desensitized. And as consciousness began to try to evolve itself here within this, I say, local time, these things were put in place for, you could say, the distractions, but everything is perfect to one's experience. So they're going through the processes as they should. But the abstinence of these things, which is a virtue, balance, temperance, will align yourself and break you free from this. And the process is wonderful.
Yeah.
And now we're here, we can unify. You know, this is what the X-Fam unity is about, is beings that have this perception. We can work together, we can find land, we can work with each other, we can get back to the places we need to and do it together in groups and have people to speak to. It's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, for those listening who haven't checked out xfamunity.com, you have lost out. If you are interested in learning and heightening your perceptions, and it's all what is not there will be presented of the great truth.
And it's just beginning as well.
There was
the truths that one can apply.
There was a question of
cold moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the chat.
The moon is cold. I've managed to get out today. So the moon is cold light. It's true. It's a fact. If one wants to argue the fact that the moon is a cold light, please take a thermometer or a thermometer and measure the moon or on a full moon in darkness or a shadow or a shade and in open moonlight. And you'll see it's up to 9 degrees cooler in moonlight than it is within the shade. And this is due to its negative charge. And the sun is also a plasma, but it has a positive charge, which gives off the sensory perception as heat. But there's this mystery that if one sits with inside and allows all these synchronicities to play, when one goes higher on the land, it becomes very cool, yet you would think that you were getting closer to the sun. Weather itself is controlled by the sun and the moon, which brings me on to wind and water and how this wonderful breeze is felt and expressed and how it forms. These polarities themselves, as we see within the hyperboloid, the torus and the field geometry is to do with pressure mediation. And as pressure mediates, it folds within itself and creates this spiraling effect. So due to the moon and the sun and its relative positions, you will have, you could say, windy days, cold days, hot days, and you'll start to begin to see the weather patterns and be able to know when it's going to be cold and when you're going to have hot days. Unfortunately, you can't predict. You may be able to if you get a chart about the chemtrail in the sky to block the sun. But these work in perfect harmony. So wind is only felt with the medium of water. And how would that be so? Water is unseen within the air right now, but it's everywhere. So this positive and negative charge creates this effect inside the medium of water, which allows us to feel wind and then almost see the wind as it becomes very violent, as it picks up dust or seawater. And you'll find that these big tornadoes, they are there within these geoelectromagnetic storms. And then you'll hear the media talk of solar storms, solar flares. So there's a solar flare coming and then the wind picks up. But all it is our sun, the magnetism and the polarities working together to create this wonderful wind or wind. So without the medium of water, physical ether, these things would never be able to manifest. You'd never be able to feel the breeze. So what's happening is the energy is slapping you. And if one gets to go out in a storm, one gets to cleanse their body in this absolute balanced energy within a hyperboloid itself. So this weather is a beautiful, purifying, cleansing effect. And if one goes out on a windy day, really windy, even in their jackets and jumpers, how much revitalization does one feel? You feel fresh, you feel new, you are cleansed by the wind itself. And contemplate on these things within inside yourself, and it's such a beautiful thing. Do you sorry brother, go on.
No, I just saw there's a question. Will the aurora lights from the North Pole spread all over the world this winter or not yet?
Oh,
I don't know the background for the question.
The aurora itself, you can see gold. This is due to what you see behind you within the Taurus and the green astral light that we see, or the cosmic blaze, is the expression from our central sun. And this inertia plane that we live on itself, as it encompasses us within this grand Taurus, or the Tour of us. So if one's going to experience it, we are experiencing, let's say, a reversal of these poles. And as they do, I'm sure that we'll see bright lights across the plane. But I am not able to, during this discussion, sit there and bring this to my, conversation, but it's something that I'll sit with. But I would say, when it happens, you'll know what's happening, because you'll know there's a switch which has been prophesized for this time. 2012 itself was the age of this, but time has also been played with. And if one does the numerology of time, we were in 2012, I think last year. So are we in 21? Yeah, I think we're around this age now. So we're going to see grand things. If one looks at the nature of reality and sits with it, you'll see that the climate change is happening and the world is shifting, and this wonderful virus that's come into play is creating a separation for land to be inhabited and the meek to inherit the earth once again, also creating a paradigm shift for those stuck within the illusion of the world. And also Mars is beginning to be manifest, and media's talking that there's going to be an artificial magnetic field within Mars, which will allow life and water and all these things. You can see the nature of the world itself preparing something, some big event. And the word event is to even the physical plane. Bring balance. There's only one event within inside. Micro, macrocosm is all about balance. So the world is balanced in itself, and this is why we don't want to fall trapped to its illusions. We don't want to have fear through this time. We want to know within ourselves that absolutely everything is perfect. We are the creators of this, but the body mind wants to fall trap because of its unawareness. But yet the experience are who. We have to be careful what we say, because we don't want to get this taken off. But how can this ever be forced when this was because it can never be forced, because it's not gone through FDA trials? And then you'll see, okay, that's a synchronicity for one to have truth, wisdom, strength. And then you look at the word compulsory, or you look at the word mandatory, mandate. And you look in the law dictionary, because everything is commerce and commercial law, and you'll see that mandate is for businesses only. Are you a business? Do you class yourself as a corporation, or do you class yourself as this piece of life that has the ability to utilize the person when it chooses to do commerce or commercial means? And then one becomes more free once they sit with these things. And the world itself has coercion within inside of it. These passports have come in. I mean, 1 year ago, people were getting vaccines because they wanted to go on holiday, but yet still, I said the word. But this is how one frees themselves to the world. You watch it, if you're not free already, then you'll see that in every aspect, they make it so obvious that one who can see is free. That's why the person is there. The person and the legal person and the physical person, yet the legal person has no power as the spiritual man, yet the spiritual being within inside the man has a person to play with, just as the living man has a person to play with. And do you become the piece of paper? And do you become the form within inside the world? That's why a piece of paper that you fill in is called a form. Free yourself.
I'm just looking if there's some questions. There's one from Organic Intelligence. They want him to take an antibiotic. Do you have any recommendations? Natural.
Yeah, I mean, biological systems need to run themselves. Something that stops a biological system from working is actually stopping the nature in its natural form. If one chooses to kill bacteria within inside their system, they not only kill beneficial bacteria, they also kill bad bacteria. To kill bad bacteria, one needs to be alkaline. The system creates a virus to deal with bad bacteria. So your virus is your antibiotic. Your virus within inside your system is the very thing which you seek externally from a doctor who's in practice. Don't practice, know. And know that nature itself is perfectly balanced. I mean, millions of bacteria exist in an apple itself. Beneficial bacteria that the body needs to be able to ferment and create minerals, vitamins, B12, etc. All of these things are within the fruit. The fruit is your natural food for your form. If one eats things other than this, then the bacteria exists in that food, which is not beneficial, such as meat and dairy, etc. So then the body doesn't recognize this and it says, I need a virus to get this out of my system. Let's build this virus from my immune system to get rid of this. And I feel at disease during this process. Yet time and time again, because of my lack of understanding and awareness to what I'm doing, I continue to repeat the cycles of my program because I haven't become intuitive with that which I do. Apply the truth and watch that you do never have a disease, you do never become at disease. And if one is strong enough to live in balance and apply that, you are revealed all these truths through your experience. You cannot catch anything. You eat your disease.
So the virus theory itself is probably also something that can be dived into.
Exactly. You know, even the nature of it, if one doesn't look for other people's opinions on what a virus is, you will find that it's available to you right now. It's part of your immune system, and it basically goes and finds it, so the bacteria is dead, and then it flushes it through your system, which is the lymphatic system.
Which is...
You're perfectly designed, but one keeps... Sorry, brother, please.
No, I was just going to mention about the lymphatic system. It's good to remember that this needs to be circulated with physical. You have to do something, right? It doesn't have a pump like our blood system.
I mean, one can really block it through excessive lifestyle, excessive unnatural lifestyle. We can give ourselves these lymphatic massage, have hot and cold treatment, and go through these water fasting periods or fasting periods, which helps the elimination of it. But you can imagine if one truly sits with it within themselves and realizes that they've been consuming the wrong food since birth and are within the world that offers mainly food that is dead and is acidic forming within the system, one has to transcend the system and live with harmony in the earth. And again, this is what we are doing as a part of the X family, to create these communities and fruit forests that we can exist fully in abundance with the most expensive food on earth for free, and continue to reciprocate that life as every fruit contains the seed in a temperate zone that grows the fruit that is your food. Yet we can exist in the cold climates due to commercial worlds, because once upon a time there was a Christopher Columbus. And the Christopher Columbus is CC, which is 33, which is 33, which is to do with this illusory world concept form that wanted to create from these parts of this plane. So one has been drawn away from its habitat, the habitat, and is existing in colder climates in proper ties and having to pay bills and suffer.
Just to, sorry to interrupt you.
Please.
Because organic intelligence, who was getting the teeth pulled and was going to be given antibiotic, she didn't feel she got an answer, I think. But I do believe you said that the best way is just to...
Yes, please. I mean, you don't need it. Anyone, say, who is experiencing viral load or viruses, it's approximately 2 to 3 weeks strongs that you get better. You'd agree, maybe, 14, 21 days. You take antibiotics, it's about 14, 21 days, yet you destroy your beneficial gut bacteria. And your gut bacteria that is beneficial to you is your immune system. It's your thoughts, it's your feelings, it's your ability to digest the food properly and absorb minerals. So when one takes antibiotics, they're not only destroying the moment that they're in, they're also destroying the future to have a balanced system. Then autoimmune diseases are there present because the beneficial bacteria is not abundant enough to deal with the food that's going in. Then the digestive issues happen. So you see that it's important to have the beneficial bacteria, which, as the fermentation process of fruit within the system, this bacteria feeds, it defecates, and this defecation is absorbed within the system as a mineral compost, for example, that is absorbed fully and creates this powerful alkaline balanced system, free from disease. But without it, you'll experience chronic illness. So fasting is one thing. Fasting is a beautiful thing to allow the digestive system to rest, to allow the glucose to fill the body, but also stillness from water, and then the refeed with only fruit, because fruit builds the bacteria. When one has strong bacteria, they are healed. Now, if one doesn't consume fruit and starts to involve in veg, and let's say food alchemy, you use salt. Now, what does salt do to a living bacteria being? Or it draws water from them and eventually kills them. And the body needs water. So what you're doing is, when you're having this food alchemy, let's say, and know that fruit is the only thing which doesn't taste good with salt. You add salt to your fruit and you wouldn't want to eat it. So building this system up is one thing, and healing a chronic disease is another. And also knowing that one can live in an experience and enjoy these very things, but not excessively, and it's in moderation. So if one does the fruit, the fasting, and has a great 1 day as strong or 2 days as strong, where you have a lovely evening meal and you put salt with it, you're going to be fine. But if you eat it every day and you're having an autoimmune disease and you don't know why you're healing, it's because you're actually killing the beneficial bacteria that needs to be there to create the system of strength and the immune system. And there's cytokines in the body, which is causing all these issues, but these terms are not really relative. It's the simple things that we need to keep the attention with. It's that simple. Healing is this simple. Living is this simple. But can one do this? And even in where you live, separate from the temperate zones, fruit is very expensive. It's not in its natural state. It's been transferred and stored, kept in cold storage, and sometimes doesn't even ripen. Ex-fam, unity, community, will find ourselves around these temperate zones as a natural process of evolution. But unfortunately, the nature of the machine has kind of halted the process because of what's happening within the machine. So we sit back, we observe, we allow things to start to manifest organically. And the more people that join, the more community we can build, the more land we can acquire, the more fruit can be planted now ready for inhabitation, the more houses that can be built ready for people to live in. You know, it's not about land and caravans, it's about homes and acres each with this community fruit forest. That is truly the only way everybody should be existing, in their own space, with their own family, with a community that they can rely on and expand themselves and trust. High awareness.
And I can't wait, just to mention. There's a couple of questions about tides. Probably we're going a little bit back and forth here because we were talking about the moon earlier, probably. But
yeah,
Austin has a good question, I think. Why do ocean tides go up and down, but not rivers or lakes?
So let's first say the pressure mediation, or the temperature. If one sat at a beach on a day and a cloud comes over and is subtle in their observation, you will see that the waves become more violent. So as the clouds come over and then reappear, you will see that there's a slight temperature change. If anyone has studied water, Victor Schauberger is a very great teacher who spent his whole life solely on water.
There's a link in the show notes to Victor Schauberger video.
Good work.
Yeah, sorry.
And how everything works is the rolling of water. So the waves are actually created from the heat exchange and the mediation of pressure within inside the water itself. Everything is relative to pressure mediation within this whole universe. So the waves come high and crash down because the expansion and contraction of cold and hot. And the vast body of water is the huge volume that you can see the very difference with, because it's so expansive. In small, shallow portions of rivers and lakes and streams, it's not very visible, but there is a subtle change in height and volume. But in the expanse ocean, it's... And it's not necessarily controlled by the moon, because people feel like the moon and the tides are different within the full moon and etc. But it's actually to do with the temperature exchange within inside the water itself. And the mediation of pressure and water is so wonderful, magnificent. Water itself is memory, you know. If one is experiencing heightened perceptions and wants to increase the body and what water has a capacity to do, you know, with inside, you know, my cup I have here is a silver spoon that contains a negative magnetic charge, which is non-magnetic, which also gives us that within inside our water content, which then goes into the system and picks up positively charged ions and helps them be discharged and neutralized, which brings balance to the system. Yet everything water touches contains its memories. So as water's been transitioned through the world and through shops and etc., it has an imprint within inside of its geometry from all of this negativity that is picked up and passed up. So just 20 seconds with your water, write on your water love, sit with it and tell the water what you want it to do within your system, and drink it and watch your perception increase.
I just have a question regarding the spoon. Is it because I stir, you know, and tell both the juice and the water that I love it very much? But do the spoon have to be inside? Is it important that also because I'm drinking from bottles, I take it with me. You know, it's more it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
So difficult to. Probably could get my silver fork in there actually.
What I would do is create a hyperboloid with the silver spoon in the container that you pour it in, and you know, give it maybe 20 seconds and then pour it into there, and then have love written on it or hold it, you know, with presence, because there is an imprint so deep. Again, Dr. Emoto's experiments, if one has never seen them, is there a link in the show notes?
There's a link in the show notes.
Wow. So if you've never seen this, there's a great experiment done with water and consciousness, and just by thoughts, feelings, writing, emotion, etc., the water switches and changes from perfect to, let's say, negative, non-aligned geometry. So positivity and positivity is not necessarily good, but for now the word positive means good, okay? Because this is the way that people perceive it, or the meaning, which means average perception meaning, is mathematically average, what one or perceives this to be. So the positive words create the alignment and the perfect alignment of this structure to be drunk in a form of wonderful snowflake crystals. And if there is a bad word or a negative word written on it, or just an emotion or a thought, you will see that the water itself changes. So prayer cleans water, and this is true. So build the perception of water and know that water is within all things. Water is within the body. So yet every time you speak a bad word, you're changing the geometry of the water inside yourself and others. So if water is the medium for life to express within this universe, and water is the physical of the ether, then instantaneously within the water content of others that surround you from your actions creates the negative impact within inside them, or the positive impact within inside them. And you really are the master of this, but yet can you control these very words which come from your mouth? I could say something that makes someone feel very positive or very negative. This is a choice if one is conscious of it.
You know, since we are back on water, which was the point, or we are a little loose on the subject actually, right?
Yes, we must be. We must.
We go back and forth. Let it be organically. But I saw Heidi said, I'm wondering what Josh's take is on benefits of hydrogen water. And I can say I was given a bottle that created hydrogen water, claimed to create hydrogen water. I don't know if it's true, but I managed to break it, so I wasn't meant to drink it.
There you go.
But I was also, let's say, pulled back and forth between types of water earlier, because I was drinking water from the tap that has gone through 3 filters. It was a carbon filter, sediment filter, and a mineral filter, I guess, to add minerals, and then through an alkalining contraption. So, and then I put the water on something called a grander plate. There's a guy called Johan Grander, and there's a link in the show notes. he created a. It's like a wooden plate, but inside the wooden plate there's a coil, and it has structured water.
Mm-hmm.
So the claim is whatever you put, also be it fruits, be it plants, be it everything, it will transfer this structured code to the water. So I was drinking that for a long time because I was believing what they say that the alkaline water will take out your minerals. But then again, that's the point I have come to understand. But before, I was thinking that yeah, sounds like living water, living structured water, like you find in, let's say, a river, riverbed or something that's not contaminated. Living structured water compared to then the
well, the living, you know, it has a field. So what's happening is there's a transfer of energy through the field, which is the ether again. So there's nothing necessarily touching it, but it's giving off this field geometry which aligns the water. As anything conceptual, let's say, beat the creative code of God, you know, it may be beneficial to water, but not the most beneficial in the world of busyness. So yes, for one, restructured water would be more beneficial than a non-structured water. But balanced water itself in a dye state, distilled water, pure stilled in the dye balance, which is the dipolarism, which is the perfect union of positive and negative, charged negatively magnetically. This will allow the taking of positively charged ions, particles, and neutralization of them while alleviating your system of minerals that is not needed. What happens with water that we consume from shops, from streams, or from taps, it has an excessive load of minerals within inside of it. So as you drink them, it goes into the system and actually drops off minerals. And then we start to have the buildup within inside our body, calcification. And this is not necessarily, this is not what we need, at all. We don't need these things. So when one stirs the water themselves, it restructures. The spiraling of water restructures the alignment. It's living because it's live, it has movement. Any water that moves never becomes stale. So you actually have the ability to create a magnificent water with yourself just with 20 seconds. A simple stir, a simple prayer before you consume it. So distilled water, silver or copper vessels, and a small prayer is going to give you the absolute perfect alignment of water. Now, distilled water is the same as rainwater without the chemtrails and atmospheric problems that we're experiencing here. So I would always recommend that is the pure water for us.
I don't know if I took your attention away from the first question that was about the hydrogen water. You have now already said that the best water is the distilled water, but maybe your thoughts on
Does water, water itself, does it not already have hydrogen inside of it? Is the geometry of water itself not absolutely perfect with the golden mean spiral and the golden triangle? Does one want to mess with the geometry of perfection and then consume it into the living body? Does one know what the supplement world does to the system supposedly beneficial to the body during excessive exercise? I truly know that the simplest things in life are the most beneficial. But what one does is, due to the nature of the mind, we tend to go to the intellectual route to then go very back to the space that was perfect and simple, which I did on my journey. I spent many, many years involved with looking at different waters and, you know, different systems and free energies, and I never left any stone within inside the world without turning it to then come back to this simple realization. And everything that's been created by nature is for you. The fruits are your food and distilled water is your water. Yet man walks around in the Western world dehydrated. People don't get old, they get dehydrated.
Shrink. They shrivel up.
Takes water from the body. If one is on a journey with fruits, for example, they're very hydrating, you feel wonderful. Towards the evening, if you have a salt mill, you'll notice that you continually go to the toilet and it flushes so much water from you. So just be aware of these things and try to live in balance. Nothing in excess. This is the temperance virtue. And the diligence is to be observing in your actions through this process so you can apply these things to your life. And you can live in the highest seat within yourself. The Templar, the master builder, the philosopher, the philosopher, the cipher to lose phi being the physical nature, which is the Taurus behind you, which is conceptual, arisen from that which you truly are as the self. You are the all-seeing eye. I will repeat it again. You are this watcher that can never be seen or never be found, a mystery on the back of the dollar bill. The 13 steps. People have a conspiracy associated with this on the lower form of intelligence because, of course, it's very interesting as you start to uncover the world and its lies, but the truth is always ultimate. The 12 steps, the L is the 12th letter in the alphabet, the 13th is M. Now, I will show you the sacredness of the letter M, because L is 12, which is the Sanskrit word for God, or the root word for God itself, the EL, which is what we're in search for, which is the divine feminine. The A is what we are, the alpha, the electrical wave, the longitudinal wave, searching for this Z ion, this latitudinal wave to create the magnetic man. What was the word I was looking to do?
Yeah, good question.
Can somebody help?
Where were we?
I'm sure we'll have someone
Yeah, probably
come back with it.
come back with it.
I know it was. It was the M.
Yeah.
Why is the M in the middle of the alphabet? Perfectly balanced. These are the twin pillars of Freemasonry. Okay? This itself is the letter K in the alphabet. Phonic or phonetically, it's L even. So the solution is to balance with the L or the EL, which is the blue shift within the Taurus you see behind you, which would be called the divine feminine. What's the symbol for feminine? The V. So V is number 22, which is in anyone that is in numerology will know that it's a master number. And 11 is not quite the master, but one has built these temples at their temple to the left and right brain. T, physical, EM, electromagnetic pull. It's the temple and how you pull etherically from the field. If I put a V inside of this, I have the M. So what is balance is the twin pillars of the mind with the feminine itself to live in union, in perfect balance. So this symbol of the M is the 13. is the secret that's been hidden within the geometry of life. And this is why number 13 has such mystery with the letter M.
Mm.
So you have the sacred feminine inside the temple, creating balance. 11 and 22 equals
33.
the mystery of the number 33.
I also heard the 11, 22, 33 explained like son, mother, father.
What's unification? What's the Holy Trinity? What's Israel? What's Tut Ankh and Amen?
Mm-hmm.
This is the M. Middle, balance, 13, 33. This is the unification of the mind, body, and spirit. Look, I see that, dear brother, fly on the wall. It's lovely to have you. They say that everything is ones and zeros. I wonder if this has anything to do with the male and female. Absolutely. One is to phi as phi is to one. One is the manifest. One is the masculine alpha wave projection that we exist on as females, female, masculine, and males. Zero is this void, you could say. So everything in creation is the divine, feminine void and the one. So in the Phoenician alphabet, you will see Q. Let's say, I don't want to get too deep here, but Q was like the on button, the 0 and 1, perfect balance. This is why the Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah, is spelled Q, able, C, able, or K, able. Okay, the Kabbalah is the abler. So understanding that within religion, you have Cain and Abel. And Abel is the right side, activation. The blue shift within inside our magnetic being. Alpha wave is non-magnetic, it's electric. And it causes, it's a force which ends. When one unifies to the righteous and the right side by making the right choices, this blue shift's activated. Now, this is able to become enabled. The Q is perfect balance. So the Kabbalah is balancing to become able. C is the third letter, which is Trinity, and also sight from the observer position to become able. K is L even. It's also balance to see able. So this is why it can be spelled with any letter. But the Q is actually perfect balance and the symbol for the 0 and 1 unified. And again, quickly, the words themselves, to leave, you can hear leave. I mean, the instructions are X, you've got to X it to leave. And X again is the V feminine with the masculine in perfect unification and balance. We have the word level, which is L, Eve, L. And these are the two L's, the AL, red shift, and the EL, blue shift. So everything is about this pure balance. And the code of the universe has expressed itself. Let's say consciousness expressed itself with everything that one needs to free themselves. Even the word free is F6, which is matter, R, E, to rightfully establish E with the ether, which is the 5, which is the blue shift, which is what you see that creates this magnetic field within inside ourselves. Becoming a magician, which is the mysteries of all these films and, Star Wars, red versus blue, boxing, red versus blue, everything within sport. everything within your manifest world, everything is always bringing attention to this. Your attention is the most powerful thing you have. If your attention is diverted onto the person, you are fully involved, lost in the play. If your attention is to the moment, you're the experiencer involved with freedom and the embodiment. If your attention is that which it is, you find yourself and you are yourself, being yourself as pure being in a grand knowing that this is a projection from that which you truly are. And you've become free from samsara, free from living in water and ether, as the creator of water and ether.
Just to not miss any, or at least too many questions. I saw there was okay. Yeah, summer. Why do I get less sick when I eat fruit and more sick when juicing?
Sick, or a slight discomfort as one releases toxins from the system. As one's releasing toxins from the system, it can bring discomfort. But if one feels very comfortable on a fruit-based diet, then that is the highest type of living you can do. If you are fruit-based and fruit itself is really enjoyed with ripe fruit, mono, then fasting itself can just be done very short. But I would say, depending on your level of eating and depending on what you're doing, the abstinence of food also helps a detox to happen, and detox can bring a slight discomfort as you go through these processes. Again, if you're at that stage, you learn yourself on what you eat and how it makes you feel, and be subtle, and then apply it to yourself for your day-to-day processes and be in union with what feels good to you. But I would say it's down to a cleanse of the system. Pepsi versus Coke. Good question. I think Pepsi has more embryotic DNA inside of it than cola, so I'd go with the Coke. Good question.
That brings to mind, before I started this journey, I was hooked on Pepsi Max.
Okay, aspartame.
Yeah, so I drank about 3 to 4 liters of Pepsi Max a day.
Wow.
For a long time. For a long time.
Yeah, I mean, one of those tricks within the media is it contains no sugar, so it's empty calories, so you can just consume it, but it has so much aspartame, which is basically what E. coli poos out, and is very toxic to the body. It's a non-natural forming food causing acidity, and I'm very glad that you don't drink it anymore.
I'm as well.
Well done.
I'm amazed I'm still alive, actually.
I know.
When I look back and see what I ate and what I drank and everything else I put into my body.
But you see, as you've released it, the awareness has grown rapidly. So the awareness is very desensitized and unaware of it, which keeps it on a certain level. And once you change the level of food, the perception just heightens and heightens and heightens, and awareness grows and grows and grows, and then you start to become aware of the realm and all of its processes, how it functions, what life is, and the world, what the world is, and why Jesus said, do not love the world or anything in it. And everything starts to make sense. The world is not the earth. The world is the corporate busyness world. The earth is the creative life force that is perpetual, life-giving and free. And we're heading there. And I don't mean we, I mean the meek, the kind, virtuous. And everyone who's controlled by the ego and fear will be coerced. And if one doesn't have the inner standing and gives in to fear, then I guarantee that they will be herded by the illusion, and their attention is given to the matrix itself within the news. I know nothing of the news. I hear from concerned people about certain scenarios, but it doesn't exist in my reality. It is a tool. It is a fear. It is something that the attention of our mind is given to. Divert your attention to the greatness and positive things in life and watch life become positive and great. The nature of the world itself is a system for the unconscious that keeps a perpetual state of fear, disease, unkind, well, the sinful world. You were born into sin. This is why you have sinuses, for the sin uses.
There's to go back to water a little bit. Larry says he's been drinking biological electric Vincent. I don't know if water. I don't know if it's anyway the BEV water and not distilled. It's close to zero water with. It's close to zero water with my TDS meter. Do you know anything about BEV water?
I would just say that anything electrical sent into water is charging it with plasma. Plasma is neutrality within itself. Plasma is released from the very thing which is balance. So if it has a current, like a lightning storm, for example, this balances and purifies water itself, but how it's done and the method it's done is down to each creator of the device. But the still water itself is balanced. So this would balance water, it would kill pathogens. It would be more beneficial than most waters. But again, for me, it's just, fruit itself is very hydrating. It hydrates your carbons by the very nature of its carbohydrates or glucose. So you don't even need to drink water when one is hydrated by fruit. And the fruit itself is perfectly balanced in its electromagnetic state, which also charges the body, has this transfer of energy and keeps one very alive and living. So the nature of one drinking water or excessive amounts of water is due to the dehydration of the foods that they consume with, preserved foods, rice and grains and all these things that don't contain this water, and also cooking. And the body has to go through these processes which dehydrate with salt as well. So the need for excessive water, drink 4 pints a day, 8 pints a day, or however the recommended daily allowance is, within a world that tells you that you should eat meat and dairy and bread and grains and cheese and vegetables and the smallest amount of fruit, because it is the world which is the opposite of the truth, the separation from that which is true, the world of the unconscious. One who does not ask questions will follow, and one who does not apply will never know. And it's only through this application that one becomes very wise and has no need to interact with others and fall trapped to hearsay and untruth. If I can give anyone any advice, it's just time is relative to perception. You can only exist in the now. If one's very impatient in their nature, it's because their attention is not drawn to this very moment. When time doesn't exist in your reality, it's just a concept that is within the world that you can become in control of and work with. If you have to go to work, it's still a world that has a certain time, but you don't need to exist in time. You can still exist in the present state. You're always rushing when the mind is in attentive state. Your attention is drawn to the mind, and it's always the very next thing that needs to be done, yet the moment is missed. And then when one is in their contemplation, it's always about the day that was in the past to try to figure out what they could do better. Yet if you're involved presently, you do things presently. You do it with the absolute intentive attention and the knowing. So it's very important to live in the present state.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things will leave you, and you become wise to your experience, body, mind, self.
Joanne has a couple of questions, but since Austin had one, since we're on water, can you discuss the fourth phase of water?
Yeah, should we leave that one to the end and then answer? I think we should go back to water for the end, and I just see that it was one for cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, in the last show you said wear cotton so the body has contact, can reciprocate with the ether. Why is that important to be in contact with the ether?
Well, what it is the field. So ether is the field, and when our skin is supposed to be in a natural reciprocation with this life force energy, the electrostatic charge, for example, and also the mediation within our system, within the water of this life, the clothing, for example, plastic, doesn't allow this connectivity to happen. And cotton and hemp, and these natural fibers, they are in pure balance with what is true. So they are the best clothes to wear for your body. You know how, for example, when one takes off a t-shirt fast that is made of polyester, or a jumper, and the static is kept within the side of it, and it's not expressed within this life, it's just not the highest that one can wear, and it dampens and has a oppressive effect. And if one is looking for just the most out of life, then the optimum clothing to wear would be those two types of clothing. It's something that just when one's heightened, it just becomes a natural thing to choose. And again, this is why, unless you're in these places like India, cotton is very expensive. These types of clothing are harder to afford because of the very nature of them. But unified theory field and consciousness, you'll see that everything always pulls you back to these zones where things are made with nature instead of recycled plastic, and the illusion of goodness from them. You know, these hats are made from recycled plastic. So one would go, that's brilliant, I'm going to buy that. Yet you're putting like plastic on the head. And then it's this unnatural alignment of energy, which is just available to anyone to continually expand.
Fly on the Wall says he has heard that cotton is man-made.
Cotton is a plant. Cotton sometimes has been altered with, but essentially, you know, cotton is a flower, is a plant. And wool is another one, but again, some people may be against wool. It's just what it is. And whatever one chooses to wear is entirely up to them. I'm just here to just point. I prefer cotton. I like hemp. Hemp is probably one of the best clothing that you can get, very strong, rot resistant, and reciprocating. Very expensive, which is, again, one of those things. As we go into the new age, I'm sure these things will become cheap and available once the margin profit has been taken out. And things are done for necessity and not corporate greed.
So, should we do the... Let me just see quickly if it's... Joanne says that she meant like Pepsi's blue and Coke is red.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that was very good. Okay.
But Austin, then the fourth phase of water, so we can maybe wrap it up. We've done 98 minutes.
Nice. Okay, so I think we touched on it earlier, is about restructured water. So the fourth phase is a perfect restructured water, or it is something called H3O2. I've never really involved myself with this type of water because I feel like I restructure my water myself with just awareness of what water is and what it does. But it's also, you could say, it's a magnetized water itself. So it would be very good water to consume if one has the ability to do it properly. But in your awareness and your application of these wisdoms that we share in here, you would align the geometry of the water to this very structure itself, but leaving water in its natural state without the involvement of machine or any type of technology. And because of the nature of water itself and the concept world that one creates a concept that water is being restructured to the H3O2 state, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a beneficial thing. You know, magnetized water or perfect geometry water is moving, living water in balance. So I would never really give my attention now. Once upon a time I did, to this this concept world when we've been given the most perfect water that drops from the sky. And I mean, if one is in a true perfect balanced state, then the consumption of fruit is all one needs. The fruit is so hydrating in its nature. I have a friend in Jamaica who hasn't drunk water for 25 years, and he is 78, climbs coconut trees.
I think I saw him on a YouTube video.
Yeah, he's a beautiful man, and even though his perception is not of the highest, his food and his interaction with food has brought his beingness to such a state that you can see within his flesh, within his skin, within his abilities at that age that one doesn't need to drink water. One needs to in the Western world due to the dehydration, but if one consumes living fruits, there's no need. It's uptaken by the roots of the tree, distilled by the very fruit itself, and restructured in its alignment for a food.
Perfect.
This is why God gave you the seed-bearing fruit and not a screaming hog or a grain or a seed or a nut. Nitrogen within the world has been taken from food, from life. Nitrogen is a very powerful thing and creates a wonderful balance in our system. So the foods such as the nuts and these vines, legumes, vegetables create a perfect soil. And that's why they grow under the ground. And the vines themselves, they pull in nitrogen from the air and drop it in through the root system. So to grow, you see, a vine itself wraps itself around a tree and people think it's a weed and cut it. Yet nature itself is doing the most perfect thing, which is putting nitrogen into the soil for the tree via the vine. And it's just these small things that will allow even the body to get to another heightened state inside, you know, the physical world. But it depends what one wishes to do. You know, there's abilities and transferring of awarenesses and consciousnesses and dimensions, you know, available to anyone instantaneously. I wish everybody finds the space, the freedom of letting go and diverting attention of the person, the thoughts, the thinker into the moment. And then, as the self, the witness of all moments and the creator. C, R, full magnetic reciprocating, E and A, Taurus, which is behind you. the ENA, the red, the blue, the creator and the create ion, the creation comes from the blue red shift and the accretion disk or the ether. And water is the medium for all life to exist.
Perfect. Okay. So for those listening who have not visited the web page XFAM Unity, if you're here, I would assume you are interested in heightening your awareness, and there's no better way than joining the XFAM and look closer at the web page. So should we?
Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure. And everyone that was here with us today, thank you so much for being here. You're all so precious.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Have a beautiful day, evening, and if you're on the fast, stay hydrated, stay juicy.
Stay juicy. Fantastic. So then next week we will see you again, hopefully, and definitely you, Josh, but hopefully those listening as well. And as I said before, maybe we could do the language because it's in every episode we are doing the breakdown, or you are doing the breakdowns of the words. So maybe we can have that as a main topic, but still have it open for other questions that may come.
Keep it fluid and no structure, but yeah, a topic to pick.
Okay.
Have a beautiful evening, everyone.
Have a beautiful evening and a great weekend.
Yes. Stay strong.
Yes. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I can't find the end live button. End stream. There you go. So that's finished.